It began with a silence that felt louder than any palace announcement, a silence so heavy that even senior aides inside Kensington Palace reportedly stopped speaking mid-sentence as Prince William emerged from a private meeting looking utterly shattered. And when Catherine, Princess of Wales, failed to appear beside him, whispers of a devastating new chapter in her cancer battle began spreading through royal corridors with terrifying speed. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. Reports suggest the atmosphere inside Kensington Palace changed almost overnight after William allegedly held an emergency discussion with senior palace advisors and medical specialists, a meeting that insiders claim lasted far longer than expected and ended with unusual restrictions being quietly handed down to staff members. According to palace administrative whispers, aides were suddenly instructed to avoid discussing Irene's recovery timeline entirely, a move that many royal correspondents immediately recognized as deeply abnormal for an institution that usually relies on carefully controlled reassurance to calm public concern. And yet, despite the palace's attempts to maintain composure, observers began noticing subtle but unmistakable changes in William himself. The future king, once disciplined in his public demeanor no matter the pressure surrounding him, reportedly appeared emotionally drained during recent appearances, his expressions heavier, his tone quieter, his normally controlled confidence replaced by something far more fragile. Those familiar with royal routines claim William had already begun reducing certain private engagements behind the scenes, choosing instead to spend increasing amounts of time inside the family's private quarters as Catherine's condition allegedly became far more emotionally difficult behind closed doors than the public had been led to believe. But perhaps the heartbreaking development was not happening in official meetings or behind palace gates. Insiders now whisper that an emotional family conversation involving Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis reportedly left even longtime staff members visibly shaken. Different interpretations of the discussion describe a deeply painful moment in which William and Catherine try to reassure their children, while quietly preparing them for uncertainty that no young family should ever be forced to confront. Palace sources claim Charlotte became especially emotional during this difficult period, while George, increasingly aware of the enormous responsibilities surrounding his parents, reportedly struggled to process the sudden seriousness consuming the household around him. Meanwhile, young Louis is said to have sensed the fear without fully understanding its cause, creating an emotional strain that insiders described as devastating for both William and Catherine. Reports also suggest William recently made a deeply personal decision regarding upcoming royal duties, one that could dramatically reshape how the Prince of Wales approaches public life moving forward. Royal commentators believe the choice reflects a growing realization within the monarchy that family survival may now take precedence over centuries of institutional expectation. And while palace aides continue attempting to project stability, whispers spreading through royal corridors have become impossible to ignore. Sources close to the household now quietly admit the family may be preparing for a future far different than the one they had once imagined only months ago. But the heartbreaking reality facing William and Catherine wasn't only about illness anymore, it was about protecting the monarchy itself from the emotional storm now threatening to engulf it. For months, the palace tried to project calm, carefully staged appearances, controlled statements, reassuring smiles. But according to royal insider the truth unfolding behind those gates had become impossible to conceal. When Catherine, Princess of Wales, first revealed her cancer diagnosis to the world, the reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Messages of support flooded in from every corner of the globe. Public figures, world leaders, longtime royal supporters, and even critics of the monarchy momentarily set aside division as sympathy for Catherine spread across international headlines. The palace hoped that carefully managed updates and limited appearances would reassure the public that treatment was progressing steadily. Yet behind the scenes, reports suggest a far more painful reality had already begun taking shape. Various interpretations of recent palace activity now point toward complications during Catherine's treatment that allegedly created fresh waves of fear among senior aides and members of the royal household. Insiders whisper that the emotional burden surrounding her recovery became significantly heavier than unofficial statements ever allowed the public to understand. And while the palace continued projecting stability, those closest to the family reportedly noticed the toll almost immediately, especially on Prince William. Royal correspondents claim William slowly began scaling back key responsibilities behind closed doors, choosing to spend increasing amounts of time beside Catherine, rather than fully immersing himself in the relentless machinery of royal duty. To some observers, the changes seemed subtle at first. A postponed engagement here, a shortened appearance there. But palace administrative streams reportedly began revealing a deeper pattern, one suggesting William was quietly reorganizing his entire life around Catherine's condition, as uncertainty inside the monarchy intensified. Courtiers allegedly described the atmosphere among senior aides as one of quiet panic, a chilling phrase that carried enormous weight within an institution built on discipline, routine, and emotional restraint. According to sources familiar with internal discussions, the fear was not simply about Catherine's health alone, but about the devastating pressure now building around the entire royal structure simultaneously. Because while Catherine continued fighting her private battle, Charles III was also confronting his own cancer treatment, creating what some royal historians reportedly viewed as one of the most emotionally fragile periods the monarchy had faced in generations. The crown suddenly appeared vulnerable in ways the institution had spent decades trying to avoid. And at the center of that growing storm stood Catherine herself, reportedly determined to shield her children from the fear consuming the adults around them. Insiders claim she continued focusing intensely on maintaining normalcy for Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis despite worsening exhaustion that allegedly left even close staff members deeply concerned. Different interpretations of palace life. During this period describe Catherine insisting on preserving familiar routines, private family moments, and emotional stability for the children even while physically struggling behind closed doors. But maintaining that balance came at a cost, and those closest to the household reportedly began seeing the emotional strain affecting William more visibly with each passing week. Media insiders claim recent appearances revealed a future king carrying far more than official duty on his shoulders. His expressions reportedly seemed heavier, his public energy subdued, his confidence increasingly overshadowed by exhaustion and quiet heartbreak. And although the palace continued attempting to calm public speculation, whispers inside royal circles were becoming impossible to silence, because as Catherine fought privately to maintain normalcy for her children, another painful reality was quietly beginning to unfold inside the royal household. The future king had spent years mastering composure. But insiders now claim there was one moment hidden from cameras when even Prince William could no longer hold himself together. According to various interpretations of events unfolding behind palace walls, the emotional strain surrounding Catherine, Princess of Wales, had begun affecting William in ways even senior royal advisors were reportedly unprepared to witness. For decades, the monarchy trained its heirs to maintain discipline no matter the crisis. Public calm was not simply expected from future kings, it was demanded. But palace insiders now whisper that the burden William carries today is unlike anything faced by previous heirs in modern royal history. Reports suggest closed-door family discussions became increasingly emotional as Catherine's condition allegedly created waves of uncertainty throughout the household. Different interpretations of those conversations describe long evenings filled with difficult decisions, private reassurances, and moments of visible heartbreak that deeply affected everyone present. And through it all, Catherine herself reportedly continued urging William not to abandon his royal obligations completely despite her worsening exhaustion. Sources close to the household claim she understood the immense constitutional pressure now resting on his shoulders, and feared that the monarchy itself could appear unstable if both she and the king remained absent from public life simultaneously. But according to royal insiders, William's priorities had already begun shifting dramatically behind closed doors. Palace staff reportedly noticed the future king taking personal control of routines once largely managed by aides and household structures, school schedules, family planning, private meals, transportation arrangements. Insiders claim William increasingly insisted on handling these responsibilities himself in order to create as much normalcy as possible for Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis during an emotionally devastating period. To many longtime staff members, the transformation felt deeply personal rather than ceremonial. The future king no longer appeared focused solely on protecting the crown. He appeared focused on protecting his family from emotional collapse. And that fear, according to various royal commentators, may trace back to wounds William never fully escaped after losing Diana, Princess of Wales. Comparisons to the trauma surrounding Diana's death have reportedly become increasingly common within royal circles, particularly as William now faces the terrifying possibility of his own children experiencing uncertainty, fear, and emotional instability under the harsh glare of global attention. Sources familiar with palace discussions claim William has become deeply protective of the children's emotional well-being, reportedly fearing history could repeat itself in ways he cannot control. That fear allegedly intensified every time speculation surrounding Catherine exploded across international ED lines. Royal experts suggest the pressure now surrounding William is historically unprecedented because it combines personal grief, constitutional expectation, and global scrutiny all at once. He is not merely supporting a sick wife while preparing to become king. He is attempting to preserve emotional stability inside a family already carrying generational scars that never truly healed. And according to insiders, that emotional strain has reportedly begun influencing strategic decisions within the monarchy itself. Palace administrative streams suggest internal planning discussions have become increasingly complicated as William quietly reevaluates future responsibilities, appearances, travel schedules, and even long-term institutional priorities around Catherine's recovery and the well-being of their children. Some royal commentators believe the monarchy is slowly being reshaped in real time by William's determination to avoid sacrificing his family for tradition. Others fear the end. Optical pressure building behind closed doors may soon become impossible for the palace to contain. Because while William struggled privately with fear and heartbreak, the public was about to notice something even more alarming. Then came the silence. No photographs, no major appearances, no reassuring family moments. And suddenly, millions began asking the same terrifying question. Where was Catherine, Princess of Wales, really? And how serious had this battle quietly become behind the walls of Kensington Palace? At first, the palace appeared confident it could manage the growing concern through carefully measured statements and controlled messaging. But as weeks turned into months, Catherine's prolonged absence began fueling an extraordinary wave of speculation that spread far beyond Britain. International media outlets dissected every royal appearance, every missing detail, every unexplained adjustment to public schedules. Royal insiders claim even senior palace officials were stunned. By the speed at which uncertainty began consuming global attention, what had once been viewed as a temporary medical recovery slowly transformed into something far heavier, something emotionally unsettling for both the monarchy and the public watching it unfold. Reports suggest palace communications became increasingly cautious as pressure intensified behind closed doors. Statements reportedly underwent endless revisions before release, while aides allegedly received stricter instructions regarding internal conversations connected to Catherine's health. Royal commentators described the atmosphere as involving unprecedented levels of secrecy, a phrase that carried enormous significance within an institution already known for guarding private matters with extraordinary discipline. According to various interpretations of palace strategy, officials feared that releasing too much information could trigger deeper panic, while saying too little risked fueling even more dangerous speculati. But despite those concerns, insiders claim Prince William remained unwavering on one issue above all others: protecting Catherine's privacy at any cost. Sources familiar with internal discussions allege William repeatedly rejected pressure from both media figures and certain palace advisors to release additional medical details that could temporarily calm public concern. Different interpretations of those private disagreements suggest William viewed the growing demands for information not as public curiosity, but as a direct threat to his wife's dignity during the most painful chapter of her life. And as speculation intensified, his determination reportedly became even stronger. Yet the silence surrounding Catherine only deepened the emotional storm outside palace walls. Public concern escalated dramatically after several major royal events proceeded without her presence, each absence sparking fresh waves of anxiety across social media and international headlines. Observers who on Accor. I expected reassuring appearances or recovery updates, instead encountered more silence, more uncertainty, and more unanswered questions. Royal correspondents reportedly noticed the emotional shift almost immediately. The conversation surrounding Catherine was no longer simply sympathetic. It had become deeply fearful. Social media platforms erupted with theories, rumors, emotional tributes, and increasingly desperate attempts to understand what was truly happening behind palace gates. Some posts expressed hope and support. Others reflected frustration, confusion, or outright alarm. But beneath all of it was one overwhelming feeling: the growing belief that the situation might be far more serious than the public had originally been told. Palace insiders now whisper that William became increasingly isolated during this period, carrying the impossible burden of balancing constitutional duty with personal devastation, while simultaneously shielding his wife and children from a world-demanding NG answers he refused to give. According to reports, every decision inside the royal household suddenly carried enormous emotional consequences. Every public appearance without Catherine intensified concern. Every carefully worded statement seemed to deepen the mystery rather than resolve it. And while the palace fought desperately to maintain order and protect the family's privacy, another painful reality was quietly unfolding behind closed doors, one far more heartbreaking than even the public imagined. Yet behind the scenes, the emotional toll on the royal children may have become the most heartbreaking part of all. According to sources close to palace staff, the hardest conversations were never happening in briefing rooms or royal offices. They were happening quietly between two parents and their frightened children. As speculation surrounding Catherine, Princess of Wales, continued spiraling beyond palace walls, insiders claimed the emotional reality unfolding inside Kensington Palace became increasingly heartbreaking for Prince William and their 3 children. Reports suggest William and Catherine made the painful decision to carefully explain parts of Catherine's illness to Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis in ways they could emotionally process without becoming overwhelmed by fear. According to various interpretations of those private family moments, the conversations were handled with extraordinary care, but even the gentlest explanations could not fully shield the children from sensing that something deeply serious had changed inside their world. Palace insiders whisper that Princess Charlotte allegedly became especially protective of her mother during this difficult period, often remaining unusually close to Catherine whenever possible and reportedly becoming emotional whenever treatment schedules disrupted family routines. Some sources claim staff members quietly noticed Charlotte attempting to comfort her younger brother Louis during difficult cult days, behavior that many interpreted as a heartbreaking sign of how aware she had become of the tension surrounding the household. Meanwhile, Prince George reportedly began understanding something even heavier: the constitutional weight now slowly pressing down on his father. Royal commentators suggest George is reaching an age where he can no longer remain entirely separated from the enormous realities surrounding the monarchy. And insiders claim William became deeply conscious of how much his eldest son was beginning to absorb emotionally. Different interpretations of palace discussions describe George quietly observing the growing pressure on William, recognizing changes in his father's routines, his exhaustion, and the emotional strain that increasingly followed him everywhere. But perhaps the most emotionally vulnerable figure during this painful chapter was Prince Louis. Sources close to the household describe the young prince as struggling emotionally with Catherine's absence, ease and treatment periods, reportedly becoming confused whenever routines suddenly changed or planned family moments were interrupted. Insiders claim both William and Catherine worked tirelessly to preserve stability for him despite the emotional chaos unfolding behind closed doors, but maintaining that sense of normalcy became increasingly difficult as the family's private reality grew heavier with each passing week. Reports suggest family life inside Kensington Palace changed dramatically during this period. The structure and rhythm that once defined daily royal routines reportedly gave way to something far more personal and emotionally focused. Palace staff allegedly noticed William prioritizing school pickups, family meals, and private evenings with the children over certain ceremonial obligations that once dominated royal schedules. According to insiders, the future king became far less concerned with royal optics and far more focused on emotional survival inside his household. The T-shift, some commentators believe, represents one of the most profound transformations of William's life. The heir to the throne reportedly began redefining what duty itself truly meant, not simply protecting the crown, but protecting the people he loved from emotional devastation. Courtiers now describe the atmosphere inside the household as deeply emotional but united, a phrase that reflects both the heartbreak and resilience quietly shaping the Wales family behind the scenes. Even amid exhaustion, uncertainty, and growing fear, insiders claim William and Catherine remained fiercely committed to preserving a sense of love, unity, and emotional security for their children. But beneath that determination was an unavoidable reality becoming harder for the monarchy to ignore with every passing day. Because even as the family tried to stay united in private, pressure from the monarchy itself was beginning to intensify. For the first time in decades, senior royal figures reportedly began confronting a question few ever imagined asking simultaneously: What happens if both the King and the Princess of Wales remain unable to fully return to royal life? According to palace insiders, that terrifying possibility slowly transformed from a distant concern into an active discussion, quietly unfolding behind closed doors as the health battles facing both Charles III and Catherine, Princess of Wales, continued placing enormous pressure on the monarchy. Reports suggest senior aides became increasingly alarmed by the constitutional and emotional implications of prolonged uncertainty surrounding two of the institution's most important figures at the exact same moment. Different interpretations of palace discussions describe an atmosphere filled with caution, exhaustion, and growing fear about how much instability the public could emotionally absorb before confidence in the royal institution itself began weakening. For generations, the monarchy survived through continuity, visibility, and carefully maintained public reassurance. But now, according to royal commentators, the institution suddenly appeared vulnerable in ways few living royals had ever experienced. Sources familiar with internal planning claim King Charles's illness reportedly complicated already sensitive succession discussions, forcing advisors to quietly reevaluate timelines, responsibilities, and long-term strategies while attempting to avoid triggering public alarm. And standing directly at the center of that pressure was Prince William, who insiders claim had already begun quietly assuming greater institutional responsibilities, even as his private world continued unraveling behind closed doors. Palace administrative streams reportedly suggest William became increasingly involved in high-level discussions surrounding future royal planning, diplomatic responsibilities, and the long-term stability of the crown itself. But according to sources close to the household, the future king was carrying this responsibilities while emotionally exhausted, deeply worried about Catherine, and increasingly consumed by the need to protect his children from the emotional storm growing around them. Senior aides allegedly feared public confidence could weaken if uncertainty surrounding both the king and Catherine continued for too long without visible reassurance from the monarchy. Royal commentators claim this fear sparked difficult internal discussions about reshaping future public appearances, redistributing ceremonial duties, and adapting royal schedules to reflect a reality the institution never expected to confront this soon. Yet amid all those discussions, insiders insist one painful truth remained impossible for palace officials to ignore. Catherine herself was still viewed internally as absolutely central to the monarchy's modern image, popularity, and emotional stability. According to various interpretations of palace strategy, Catherine had become far more than a senior royal figure. He represented continuity, warmth, discipline, and the future emotional identity of the monarchy itself. Her absence reportedly created a void that could not easily be filled through protocol or carefully managed appearances alone. Royal historians now compare the atmosphere surrounding the palace to previous constitutional crises that shook the monarchy during periods of instability, uncertainty, and emotional division. Some insiders reportedly fear the institution is approaching one of the most delicate moments of the modern royal era, particularly because the personal suffering unfolding behind palace walls is colliding directly with the constitutional demands placed upon the family. And nowhere is that collision reportedly felt more intensely than within William himself. Palace insiders claim the future king increasingly feels trapped between two impossible responsibilities: preserving the monarchy expected of him by history, while protecting the family he fears could emotionally from. Acture under the unbearable weight of public scrutiny and personal heartbreak. Sources suggest William privately understands that every decision he makes now carries consequences not only for the crown, but for the emotional survival of the people he loves most. And as pressure continued mounting behind palace walls, insiders whisper that one devastating realization slowly began taking hold within the household. The palace might not be able to shield the truth much longer. And then came the heartbreaking confirmation that changed everything William thought he could still protect from the public. When William finally spoke, even briefly, those watching closely noticed it immediately: the pause in his voice, the exhaustion in his expression, the unmistakable grief behind carefully chosen words. For months, the palace had relied on silence, restraint, and carefully measured updates to shield Catherine, Princess of Wales, from overwhelming public scrutiny. But according to royal insiders, there came a moment when Prince William realized the emotional pressure surrounding the family had become impossible to contain entirely. Reports suggest his eventual public acknowledgement of Catherine's ongoing struggle was not spontaneous, but the result of weeks of painful internal debate behind palace walls. Sources close to the household claim William agonized over whether speaking openly would protect Catherine from growing speculation, or expose the family to even greater emotional intrusion during one of the darkest chapters of their lives. Different interpretations of palace discussions suggest senior advisors remain divided on how much should be revealed publicly, fearing that any visible sign of distress from the future king could intensify international concern about the stability of the monarchy itself. Yet despite those concerns, insiders now whisper that Catherine allegedly encouraged greater honesty behind the scenes, reportedly believing that silence had begun fueling fear far more dangerous than the truth itself. According to various royal commentators, William's brief but deeply emotional remarks carried far more weight than official palace statements ever could. It was not simply what he said that shook the public, it was the unmistakable heartbreak behind every carefully controlled word. Observers around the world reportedly noticed it instantly: the exhaustion in his tone, the emotional hesitation between sentences, the quiet grief that no royal training could fully conceal anymore. Media outlets across Britain, Europe, America, and beyond quickly framed the appearance as one of the most vulnerable moments of William's public life. Royal experts described it as the rare collapse of the emotional wall the monarchy traditionally works so hard to maintain. And almost immediately, the public reaction became overwhelming. Supporters flooded social media with messages of compassion, prayers, and emotional tributes for Catherine and the Wales family. According to reports, flowers, handwritten letters, and personal messages began appearing outside royal residences as crowds gathered quietly to express solidarity with a family many now viewed not simply as royal figures, but as parents enduring unimaginable pain under relentless public attention. Palace insiders claim even longtime staff members were deeply moved by the scale of public sympathy that followed William's appearance. Different interpretations of internal reactions suggest the palace itself may have underestimated how emotionally invested the public had become in Catherine's recovery, and William's struggle to hold the family together. Yet behind the scenes, insiders insist the emotional burden on the household remained immense despite the wave of support pouring in from around the world. Reports suggest senior members of the royal family quietly rallied around Catherine and the children during this period, with private efforts focused less on institutional optics and more and emotional survival inside the family itself. Sources familiar with palace dynamics claim William increasingly relied on a small inner circle as the pressure surrounding both the monarchy and his personal life intensified. And while the public saw a future king attempting to remain composed for the nation, insiders describe a husband and father privately confronting fears no amount of royal preparation could ever truly prepare him for. Because beneath the global headlines, emotional tributes, and carefully controlled palace messaging was a devastating truth slowly becoming impossible to ignore. This crisis was changing William permanently. The future monarch who once appeared defined solely by duty was now being reshaped by grief, fear, vulnerability, and the desperate determination to protect the people he loved most. But beyond the headlines and public heartbreak, this painful chapter may ultimately redefine William's future reign forever. The tragedy unfolding behind palace walls with as never supposed to become part of Prince William's story this early. Yet now, insiders whisper that this battle may permanently reshape not only his family but the future of the monarchy itself. According to royal commentators, William is increasingly being viewed not simply as the future King Britain always expected him to become, but as a man emotionally forged by personal tragedy, relentless pressure, and the painful responsibility of protecting the people he loves while carrying the weight of the crown on his shoulders. For years, the public saw William as disciplined, composed, and carefully prepared for the role destiny had chosen for him since childhood. But this crisis surrounding Catherine, Princess of Wales, has reportedly revealed a very different side of the future monarch, one shaped not by ceremony or royal privilege, but by fear, emotional endurance, sacrifice, and the desperate determination to hold his family together as uncertainty continues closing in around them. Reports suggest Catherine's courage throughout this painful chapter has only deepened public admiration for her role within the monarchy. Around the world, supporters increasingly describe her not merely as a future queen, but as the emotional heart of a modern royal family many people now see through a far more human lens than ever before. Different interpretations of public reaction suggest Catherine's battle has transformed the way millions view the institution itself. The monarchy, once criticized by some as distant and emotionally detached, suddenly appears vulnerable, fragile, and painfully human in ways that resonate deeply with ordinary families facing struggles of their own. And standing at the center of that emotional shift are William and Catherine together. Royal aides reportedly describe the couple as more united than ever, despite the immense hardship consuming their private lives. Sources close to palace staff claim the ordeal has strengthened their bond emotionally even when physically and mentally exhausting them both. According to insiders, William's devotion to Catherine behind closed doors has profoundly affected those working around the household, with some reportedly describing the future king as completely transformed by the fear of losing the woman who became the emotional foundation of his life. After years marked by public scrutiny, personal trauma, and unimaginable pressure, public sympathy for the Wales family has meanwhile continued growing across Britain and beyond, strengthening support for the couple during one of the darkest periods the monarchy has faced in recent memory. Royal commentators now suggest this crisis may ultimately redefine the monarchy around empathy, emotional honesty, and family rather than rigid formality alone. Palace insiders reportedly believe the institution itself is quietly adapting to a reality where emotional connection with the public may matter more than traditional displays of royal distance ever did before. And perhaps no one understands that transformation more deeply than William himself. Sources familiar with internal palace discussions claim the future king is already preparing emotionally for a future far different from the one he once imagined. The carefully structured royal life he expected to inherit has reportedly been replaced by uncertainty, emotional vulnerability, and the realization that duty sometimes demands sacrifices far more painful than public appearances or constitutional obligations. According to insiders, William increasingly understands that leadership inside the modern monarchy may no longer be defined solely by strength, tradition, or protocol, but by compassion, resilience, and the ability to endure heartbreak while continuing to protect others from it. And as the emotional weight surrounding Catherine's battle continues reshaping the family behind palace walls, one truth reportedly grows clearer with every passing day. The future of the monarchy may ultimately be remembered not for political crisis or royal scandal, but for the deeply human struggle of one family fighting desperately to survive unimaginable pain together. And as the lights inside Kensington Palace grow dimmer each evening, one heartbreaking truth now hangs over the House of Windsor. Sometimes the greatest royal battles are not fought for crowns or power, but for the people a family cannot bear to lose. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.